so joining me from the Wave Project, our founder and CEO, Joe Taylor. Hi, Joe. Brighton and Sussex Project Coordinator, Elena Heieck.
Yeah, hi, how you doing?
How you doing? And Aliyah, who is a Wave Project Surf Club member. So welcome all.
Hi.
Hiya. Hawaiian surf queen Relson said, when you get in the water and catch a wave, you own your life again. Surfing gives you great inner strength. So that said, if I could kick things off with all three of you, put this question to you. If we start with Joe first, what was the feeling like when you first surfed and what got you hooked?
Well, I first surfed actually when I was 24, so I was quite old when I first, relative to a lot of people in Cornwall where I live now. And I was really keen to do it. I was actually living on a farm, and in Cornwall with a couple of other students. I was doing a course, and two of the students were surfers, so I persuaded them to let me go along with them. So yeah, I was quite excited about the whole idea of it, and I remember actually finding it quite difficult. I have to be honest, the first time I did it, it was as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I know what you mean, Elma, that quote you gave us about that idea of strength. I think there's something about, there's the actual experience in the water itself, catching good waves and being out there, but also that feeling of kind of satisfaction you get afterwards when you get out, you're warm and dry and you feel like you've done something and you get that sort of tingly feeling. So I think that was kind of my first takeaway, was the whole overall package you get from it.
Right. And so did you immediately think, I want to do this again? Or was it a bit more than that?
For me, yes. I mean, I can't say I was one of those people who sort of came out and was like, right, I want to get in every day. I know there are people like that. But for me, it was just more of that. I'd kind of seen it as a bit of at the time, a bit of an individual one-off experience. But I gradually got drawn back to surfing more and more. I mean, I'm still not a very good surfer. I mean, my surfing ability is not brilliant. But I do love being in the water, being around the water, and being part of surf therapy. I think the two things are slightly different. For me, I like the social aspects of surfing, like surfing with other people. I know some surfers really like the solitariness of it and being out in the sea on their own. But for me, it's the opposite of that. I like being around others and paddling out with someone and maybe sitting on a wave and just having a bit of a chat and, you know, maybe catching a couple of waves in and then, you know, getting out. I see it as quite a social experience. And what I love about the Wave Project's approach is it's very social. You know, we work together as a group and as a team, and for me, that's what makes it really fun, as well as the surfing itself.
Brilliant, thank you. And Elena?
I had a few actually. I was fairly young when I did my first one. I was like 12 or 13 years old, but to be honest, my brother always took the water as his part of the world, so I was always more of a land person, but the older I got, the more I got into the water and into surfing, definitely. So I would consider my first actual time surfing to be when I was studying in Brazil a while ago, and I was also around 24 years old, I believe, and yeah, I think it was just the playfulness of it, right? So I can't say that I succeeded and that I caught a lot of waves, but it was the playfulness and just the adrenaline of it, but also this incredible calmness that came after the surfing that just drew me back into the waves and into the water more and more, actually, as the years passed.
Okay, so something special there about that after effect. And for you, Aliyah, what about you? How did you feel? What drew you into surfing, and how did you feel on your first time?
So my first time surfing would have been with the Wave Project. Let's say when I joined it, because I'd never done it before, it really took a while to get a grip on it and like to be able to confidently like stand up, to get my posture right, get everything right. But I think when I finally got that first time where everything kind of clicked and then it got a really good wave and even managed to feel just it all clicking into place, I think that's what got me into it. It just keeps you coming back and wanting to experience that again, wanting to like recapture those experiences.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, guys. So let's begin with how this all started. Joe, as founder of the WAVE project and pioneer of an evidence-based surf therapy, you developed a system for like measuring the effects of surfing on mental health and well-being in children. How did this all begin, and what was the kind of initial impetus for forming the WAVE project?
Well, so for me, I'd already been doing a few projects around surfing and disability, and was working with the NHS to develop like inclusive surfing, trying to make it a bit more available to people with disabilities. This is prior to setting up the WAVE project. And actually, it was the NHS commissioning team in Cornwall that suggested that we might want to look at this as a mental health intervention. So I can't claim to have had a brilliant idea or anything. So I worked with them on developing that, and they helped to develop an evaluation tool to measure the effect of surfing on young people over a period of time. But what we found was really interesting was that the results were much better than we were expecting. Certainly than I was expecting, and I think so, more than they were expecting. I mean, at the time, there wasn't really anything like this being done, certainly that I was aware of in the UK. And there was different sports activities for vulnerable groups and stuff, but I think no one was really measuring what is the actual effect on people in a kind of meaningful way in terms of their mental health and well-being. So that's what's quite exciting about this. And the effect was really profound. You know, with our pilot scheme, we worked with 20 young people, and all of them made measurable improvements in terms of their well-being in different ways, though. Some captured a sense of fun that we were just talking about. Elena talked about the playfulness of surfing, and I think some of the young people we worked with really bought into that straight away. I think there is something about the calmness, feeling calmer and less angry and less frustrated. And I mean, I mentioned the social side. I think that was picked up by a lot of the participants. So we found that they became a lot calmer. They were more sociable and more able to just talk to each other and just relax and let go of some of the other problems they had. And this is really interesting from a clinical point of view, because we started to see that having a positive knock-on effect in terms of their mental health and well-being overall. And so clinicians we were working with and referring to the project were reporting that the young people they were working with were showing improvements following this course in different ways. So it was quite clear from that pilot that there was something in this, you know, something was happening in the water, but we didn't really quite know what. And I guess for the next sort of 11, 12 years or so, I've been trying to find out more about that and find out what that is. What is it about surfing specifically, being in the water, does to people to make them improve really quickly in terms of their mental health and well-being.
From your findings and from the things that you found, the effects that it was having, what reaction did the health services have to that? Because I guess if the NHS sort of asked you to do that, or, you know, look at that, what did they implement anything from it, or what was their reaction to it? Like, were they expecting that?
Well, we did a report which found great results, and in true NHS style, they decided that they would just give us no more money. So, you know, stumbled across something that was really working, really fantastic. Unfortunately, this was 2010. So for those of us old enough to remember the incoming government of the day, remember Andrew Lansley as health secretary? Does everyone remembers him? His top-down kind of, he wasn't going to reform the NHS, and then he was, and then he wasn't. So it was all of his reforms really that really prevented us from getting any further funding. But for me personally, at that point, that was the point I was hooked. I think you talked about being hooked. I was hooked on this idea that this sport could be transformative. So I went off and formed a charity. And actually, our first serious block of funding didn't come from the NHS at all. It came from Children in Need, the BBC appeal. So they funded our first year. And then I realised that to make this work, it wasn't going to be as simple as just getting money out of the NHS. It was going to have to be a bit of a mishmash of getting funding where we could to run projects where we could. And that's been kind of the pattern ever since with the WAVE project. We tried to reach as many young people as we can and just raised money as we've gone along and tried to, employ brilliant people like Elena to run the projects. But it has been quite hand to mouth in terms of funding. But what has been really clear has been a really consistent level of evaluation results that we've found over time. No matter where these projects are delivered, whether it's in Cornwall or Brighton or London or North Yorkshire, Scotland, Northern Ireland, or in other countries, we see really clear and quite consistent benefits to the participants. Increases in confidence, self-esteem, resilience, social skills. That's just so consistent. So, and for me, and I wouldn't say it doesn't matter who delivers the course, because I think it's important that the people delivering the sessions have the right approach. They need to be, kind. They need to understand young people, not pressure them and not rush them. But I think there's a sort of a model you can work towards to make sure that the projects work well. It's that combination of surfing, a culture of support for the participants, and just the natural world, and the beauty and the spirituality of being in the sea has the kind of, if you like, the active ingredient in what we now call surf therapy.
Yeah, I mean, because when I was sort of researching for this, I was looking, they had sort of a similar thing in California, but they had based that on the NHS findings, which must have been probably a lot of the things that you had done. And like now you have developed the concept for all, as you said, like it's all over the UK, but all 4 countries of the UK. So it's happening in Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales as well. That says, as you said, something must be working. And again, like you said, I mean, logistically, it's quite a big thing. Who else and what else did you need in place? Obviously, funding is very important. The people who are involved are very important. So maybe you could talk to us about the support of volunteers and patrons that have helped with this.
Yeah, definitely. So I think for us, what makes it so successful is definitely the volunteers, right? The one-to-one support that the young people get from our surf mentors is just so crucial to how the WAVE project works and how what they take out of it as well, right? So it's not just the social aspect, just connecting with other people, but also the positivity, right? The buzz from connecting with other people, and just the general encouragement that the volunteers give them, but also it plays a big part in reducing their fear, right? And reducing the fear that every one of us gets or got on the first time we went surfing. It's always a little bit there still, right? So it's just taking away this fear and facilitating building connections with other young people as well, and especially also working at the young people's own pace, right? So we do stress it a lot that we let our young people decide how fast they go or what they do. And if they don't feel comfortable with something, then it's all right. They have their surf mentor. They can take a little break, observe the waves, learn a little bit from the land, right? So we really celebrate their own steps and their own process, right? And the surf mentors facilitate that.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that that actually is vital and a key ingredient or key component, because I mean, even as adults, know if we're going to do something new for the first time, the worst thing people can do is sort of push us against how we feel. It goes against it. So that, where do you get your volunteers from? I mean, how do they come to you?
So the WAVE project in the places where we have our locations is actually through our volunteers fairly known already. So a lot of it is just our volunteers spreading the word, talking about this charity that they support, but also our social media plays a big part, right? Our sponsors. We participate in a lot of events. We have our flyers everywhere hanging out. We have a lot of connections in the community that support us, which we're very lucky about as well. So yeah.
So if I go back to Elena, having studied mental health and clinical psychology for your master's, and you looked into the impact of physical activity on people's mental health, what was it about surfing that led you to the role that you have now?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been really interested in physical activity, right? We all know what a massive impact it can have on all of us, on our person, on our mental health, but also on our physical health, right? I mean, I've mostly been a runner my whole life. So I've been running a lot, and I do triathlons. But since the first time I went surfing, I really recognized the additional benefits that it has on your mental well-being or your physical well-being as well, right? So it's just this whole meditative aspect around it, right? It forces you to be in the moment. You calculate when you have to start paddling, when you have to get up, when you have to wait, right? You start and read the sea. So it really forces you to be in the moment, and you leave the problems or your thoughts on the shore, right? And of course, the connection that you have with nature, and especially the sea, right? It has such a calming effect. And yeah, the adrenaline for me is a massive factor. So the adrenaline definitely is probably the leading factor of why I got into surfing more, but also thought to myself, there has to be someone connecting mental health or psychology with surfing, right? And if there's not someone, I'm gonna do it myself. But I was right, the WAVE project was already doing it, right? So I just went along and joined.
Okay. And so far, like, what's been the most challenging and the most rewarding? Maybe it's the same thing, but what's been part of your job?
Of course, the most rewarding part of it is seeing the young people grow with the WAVE project, right? So seeing them smiling, seeing them having fun, just you know, you meet them at the beginning of the session or the beginning of the course, and they might be struggling, right? They might be quite anxious, and then slowly they start to open up, and just you start seeing those smiles. And just the playfulness of it, right? And it's just it's beautiful to see and to be part of this as well, right? And I think a challenge that I have in my project in Brighton is probably that we don't have waves as often as Cornwall, right? Which is a challenge, but it's also, I think, one of the things that sets us apart from the project and makes it so much fun, because we get quite creative with how we teach the surf skills, right? We have lots of games to try out surfing or to pass on the skills, right? We just get really creative with our surf coaches and just create an awesome session without waves.
Well, fair play. I mean, that's interesting in itself as well. And again, I guess it goes back to something Joe said earlier about it being quite a communal thing. I guess that's important as well, people meeting others and sharing can we go through some of the physical and mental health benefits and what conditions surfing can help with? You mentioned confidence boosting and things like that, but this is to Elena and Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've discovered over time is that the main benefits are around the kind of underlying well-being measures that are the, if you like, the building blocks of good mental health. Certainly confidence is a really clear one. I think, you know, low self-confidence is quite a common theme in the children that are referred to us initially. I was actually just thinking about this when Elena was talking earlier about when we were talking about the importance of the volunteers, and I think the volunteers are really important in our project, but actually it's also, surfing is something that young people do themselves. They take their own board into the water and they've got to overcome. Yeah, it's the fact that they have to overcome a challenge. You know, if you think about a lot of sports, you know, children, young people they're being led a lot of the time by an adult. You know, they're being kind of almost shepherded through a process. Whereas with surfing, Elena's absolutely right. The mentors are really important because they're there to encourage, to help them get back on their boards when they've fallen off. But actually, the achievement themselves is the young person's alone. And I think that's a really important factor in their improvements in confidence, that they've overcome their fears and they've mastered mastered this sport themselves. Like Aliyah was just saying earlier, you know, this whole idea of everything clicks together and you've got it. So it's that kind of supportive but hands-off approach that I think is really, really key. And the fact that with surfing, it is something that you have to just kind of face up to and deal with yourself is what builds confidence. But I think the other areas are related to that, really. Self-esteem is another one, a feeling of achievement. I think it's come back really clearly from all of the data that we've had back in over the years, that resilience and a sense of determination and not giving up is something that really builds in the young people who do surf therapy.
Right.
And just social skills generally, and then a feeling that other people around you can be trusted. You know, these are really crucial components of so many other things that you do in your life, and so many other, you know, if you don't trust and don't believe in yourself and don't feel you can do anything, it's very difficult actually to get going with almost anything else. So I think for us, whilst I couldn't really comment on how this affects specific conditions, what I do know is that those key building blocks of strength, mental strength and resilience, and self-esteem and confidence are very much improved by surfing and surf therapy.
These are building blocks for anybody as a person to survive in the world. Elena, have you anything to add to what Joe just said?
Yeah, just because you had mentioned the physical benefits as well, right? So of course, surfing has physical benefits to it. I think same as for a lot of surfers, it's less about the physical benefits, but more about what it actually does to you as a person, right? So I feel like the physical benefits, of course, they're super important in this as well, but they're basically like a great positive consequence out of what we actually do with them, right? So they take away not just more confidence, and as Joe said, other aspects of it, but they also get fit in the process, right? So it's just a win-win, really.
Yeah, I mean, and also doing this and researching it, I found a documentary on YouTube, and it's not that old, and it was about another group in New Zealand, but it was like working with young men who had been in trouble or been, never really achieved anything and were in and out of prison. And they went on a surf course especially designed for them. And you could see the difference and the way they talked about it, just from those things that you mentioned, the confidence, some of them that had dropped out of school or for whatever reasons. So they never really achieved anything, and they didn't have any self-belief, and that had a huge change in their mentality and what they felt about themselves once they had, not even necessarily mastered surfing, but just being out there and learning to surf. Sort of gave them huge confidence and sense of achievement. One of the words that also came up really frequently in relation to surfing is connection to nature, and to ourselves and to each other, and that all the stress and problems are left on the shore and nothing else is important. Would you say that that's a key factor in ability to sort of heal and overcome things?
Yeah, I think it is. It's quite hard to really know. I think if you're talking about an ability to heal, exactly what components do what, I suppose. But certainly, we've heard feedback from young people quite consistently that, being in the water helps them feel calmer. There's something about the tuning out of kind of all of the noise, not necessarily the actual noise around you, but the kind of noise in the mind, that surfing and being in the water can bring, because it does make you focus on where you are and what you're doing. There's that whole mindful quality, and it brings you into the immediate present. Now, I think that's quite clear that that's what people say. How much that actually creates a kind of a healing process is hard to know, I think. Certainly in the short term, there are clear benefits to being in the water. As I say, I think for me that the longer term benefits are more around self-belief and confidence. But I think, I guess a sense of having gone somewhere and felt calm is quite important if you don't feel calm most of the time. So that's that sense of a goal achieved.
Yeah, for sure. Elena, do you think there's a difference with surfing compared to other sports? Because you said you were into running and stuff yourself. Is there a difference? Is there a difference in the intensity, or maybe the amount of focus you have to have, like that nothing else can be in your head? I mean, because I imagine when you're running, you can still have the thoughts of the day or this problem, that problem. Whereas if you're trying to catch a wave or you're out in the sea and you're bored, you have to be really present. So would that be the difference, or can you?
Yeah, I think that definitely plays into it, right? Because for me, at least, running at some point becomes quite automatic. You just put one foot in front of the other, and your mind, or my mind, clears with that as well, right? But it's a very different sort of calmness that comes over me, right? I think the whole thing of having to be in the moment, in the present with surfing is a very big part of it. Because I mean, also what I mentioned, the adrenalitic aspect of it, right? You selected a wave, you saw it coming, right? You have waited for a while and you see a wave, you're paddling for it, right? This moment of paddling for it, catching it, are you going to catch it or not, right? Maybe you're going to wipe out or something, right? That's a very important part of it as well, right? That can definitely create change. I mean, we know a lot of, or we know teenagers in puberty go through cravings of adrenaline in general, right? So I think it definitely plays into the success of surfing or adrenalytic sports as well, right? And on top of this, of course, the sea has a big impact, right? The connection to the sea and the nature as Joe mentioned, the calmness that the sea can bring about as well. But the culture and the lifestyle that surfing brings with it definitely also impacts or makes a big difference to other sports, in my opinion.
Expand on that community, like how is that different, or what is that?
It's such a positive environment, isn't it? So I mean, we all know how calm and positive surfers are, how in the moment they live, right? So you suddenly become part of a very positive culture, right? You become part of a community. You find a group of people that you share this with, right? So it's yeah, I think this is mainly it's that positivity that surfing brings about.
Right. We'll go over to Aliyah now. Aliyah, you did your first surf therapy course in Brighton after the 2021 lockdown. How did you hear about the Wave Project?
I heard about it because my brother had been in a course before, my younger brother. He was in the 5-week course before me, and he seemed to really benefit from it. And so my mom offered to sign me up, and I thought, yeah, I'll give it a try. I'm really glad I did, honestly.
And before you started, I mean, were you scared? Were you daunted by the prospect of it? Because the sea can be, and actually in Brighton, you go straight down and it's quite deep. I mean, were you a strong swimmer? Were you scared? How did you feel?
I'm quite a strong swimmer, I would say, but I was quite a bit scared. I'm autistic, so I have like sensory issues with stuff like wetsuits. So there was a bit of a problem with that. Fortunately, they managed to pick out a wetsuit for me that fit really well, and did not feel like I was being slowly choked by a fabric monster, which is how wetsuits normally tend to deal with me. Also, the ocean can be pretty scary, especially because I have previous experience with, I think it's called the washing machine effect, where you just get bowled over by a wave.
Yeah.
So it was pretty scary, but all the people that were there, all the volunteers and the staff, everyone there was really supportive. It never felt like, okay, now we have to do this, now we have to do this, and you have to partake. Like, you were allowed to sit out if you needed to. You were allowed to you could just chill out on the beach if you really needed to just chill out on the beach. You could do that. And it's always just do what you really feel comfortable doing.
That sounds great. And one of the images on our webpage that we had for this was of you receiving a certificate from Elena. So what was that for, and how did it make you feel?
It was just a certificate for completing the course.
Okay.
So everyone who completed the course got a certificate as well. But it still felt really good. It felt like it just felt like I'd really accomplished something. That's really how it felt, just to complete the course in general, is just I really accomplished something. I did something.
Mm-hmm. And it is quite a thing. I mean, I know I've tried surfing a few times as an adult, and I'm not the strongest swimmer in the sea, but and again, all the things that you guys have mentioned, just the adrenaline and the washing machine effect, that you just like that wipeout, which can then really throw you. It can, I don't want to, I'm scared to go back in again. But what do you think that apart from surfing, what do you think you've learned from surfing?
Obviously, I think I've benefited from it quite a bit. Like, I think while I was doing it, my mental health did improve considerably. I felt a lot more relaxed. I felt a lot more it was like, I feel like I'm more open to new experiences now. Like, I pushed myself and I did this thing that I wasn't initially too keen on, and because of that, I just thought it was amazing and I loved it, and I feel like I'm trying a lot more new things now because of that.
Wow, I mean, that's a positive in itself, and a really good thing. So what would you say to young people like yourself who would like to try surfing, but maybe not strong swimmers like myself, or just think like they would be, yeah, just the fear factor? What would you say?
Well, you probably won't get it first try, obviously. I don't think anyone ever gets things first try. But you know, even if you fail miserably at it for the first time, that's just, yeah, just tick it off the box. Like the first time, I remember the first time I wiped out, someone said, well that's the first one out of the way, and like they kind of cheered, and it kind of made me feel better about just wiping out in general. It's just like, yep, that's got that one out of the way.
Yeah.
First time falling off a board, it was like, it's like one of those things where even if you don't get the desired effect or like accomplish the exactly what you wanted to, it's still fun.
Right.
It's still a really enjoyable experience no matter how far you get.
Right. I mean, that's worth remembering for people who would like to try it and maybe a bit scared or daunted by the water, especially the cold water in England, because like you do have to wear a suit. It's not warm, and you can get suits that obviously don't feel bad as well, that you mentioned, so that's a good thing. Elena, thank you. So Elena and Joe, so when it comes to the sea, do you think there's that definite fear factor? How do you go as mentors or as trainers and the volunteers? How do you counteract that feeling? I mean, I think Aliyah kind of said that you have the support there, but if people are very scared.
Yeah, I take that one, Joe, if that's all right. Yeah, so I think a lot of it is, Aliyah mentioned, is the positivity, right? So the encouragement, it's just staying positive, celebrating the wipeouts equally as standing on a board or putting on a wetsuit, right? So these are all accomplishments, and every young person should be celebrating their own process, right? So that's why the one-to-one is so important, because we don't force the young people to do anything that they don't feel comfortable with, right? If they don't feel like joining the group for something, it's all right. They can just stay on shore and wait it out a little bit or take a breather, right? So just the opportunity to take a step back and relax for a second or analyze the situation, right? To go at their own pace, and no matter how long it takes or how many tries it takes, to just keep encouraging them, right? Being super positive and having fun with the wipeouts, having fun with trying again, right? Yeah, just being there for them, right? Building that trust and showing that, as Joe said as well, that it's okay to trust other people, right? That we are there to help them and support them.
Joe mentioned resilience. I'd like to ask you all, what do you think surfing requires of a person? Aliyah, if you want to go first.
I'd say three things. You need patience, you need endurance, and you need to be able to multitask quite well. Like do things, like you need to have a lot of factors in your head, like your balance and your posture and what you're going to do with your hand, and like being able to focus on the wave in relation to you. And I'm delving a lot into the technical aspects of it, and I'm afraid I'm going to scare some people off, so I might as well point out that those patience, endurance, and multitasking are three things that I thought I was really bad at before I started the Wave Project course. So you know, you might just surprise yourself.
I like that. That's great. Elena?
Yeah, so I actually also have patience on my list. It's the first one, so definitely you have to be patient, wait for the right conditions and the right waves, right? But also the patience to try again, the patience with yourself, definitely bravery, right? So it is a sport that you might not necessarily have access to. So bravery, not just joining the lineup, but it might look quite daunting, right? The big waves, especially if it's a new beach, you don't know it, right? And fitness, right? Physical fitness. So there is an aspect to that as well, that you do get quite tired after paddling for a while. So
Well, I'd agree with all of that. I think, yeah, you just need something that gives you that little push sometimes, just to, you know, get off your bum and go down and, you know, go down to the water and get in. You know, it's funny because surfing's so good for you and such fun, and it's so enjoyable, all these things, and yet we don't do it more. You know, even people like me who've got like a lot of access to the water, and, you know, I don't go in as much as I probably should. So there is, sometimes it's easy to, I just add to that list, you know, overcoming the kind of the minutiae of life, you know, like sometimes you just need to set aside that time. That's something that you need. You set aside some time for yourself to go and do it.
Okay, and I guess all those things, and especially what Aliyah was saying at the start there about what, because I was thinking about how students take those lessons learned from surfing back onto their lives on the land. But I mean, if you learn patience and you learn trust and you learn all the other things, resilience, multitasking, they will carry on in your daily life as well. You've kind of learned them, like you said, Aliyah, that you didn't think you were good at those things, but you are, and surfing has helped show you that, I guess, or bring those things out in you. So I guess all those things are life lessons. They're not just for the waves.
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, all of these things, the beauty of this is that through this, it's quite an automatic translation into the daily life, right? Through the repetitions as well, and just the playfulness of it, you kind of take on that positivity and all of these factors into your daily life, right? So it's really cool how easily it translates into the daily life, right?
What changes, if any, like maybe Elena, what changes have you seen with kids, volunteers, families, and actually the space? Has the space, the beaches and the spaces where this happens, has it altered because of things like this, because of the community of surfers and things like the Wave Project, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. So I think in my area, surfing has gotten a lot more inclusive also through the Wave Project, right? So you see that it's represented in the lineup as well, right? And I think what also is a big point to mention is it's become more accessible, right? Surfing as a sport, but also the beaches. And what also we try to, or we mention to our young people, and also we have some surf clubs, right, to focus on taking care of the space that we use on our earth, right? So we do some beach cleans every now and again with our surf clubbers. We do work together with Surfers Against Sewage, for example, to take care of our seas, of our beaches, right? Because we do have to protect them, and if we're going to use them, we should take care of them and we should keep them clean. And I think that also is visible on the beaches that we use.
Great. And I wonder what kind of feedback you've had since doing this from the parents of the children, and maybe also medical practitioners, if people have been referred to you. Could be Joe, Elena.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have a quote here actually from a parent that was sent to me recently. Let me just read it out to you. So this is from our project in Cornwall.
Right.
And I'm going to call the child Oscar. That's not his real name.
Okay.
Oscar, yeah, just for anonymity. But Oscar had the biggest smile whilst attending the WAVE project. This is something that will stick with me as he's been through so much challenging times over the last 3 years. I began to forget what his smile even looked like. Oscar doesn't like to get up and face the day, and each day is a battle. However, Oscar really enjoyed getting up for surf school. So it's a little quote, but the reason I shared it with you is because just that line that this parent has said, you know, they've forgotten what their son's smile looked like.
Wow.
I remember reading that and being quite struck because, you know, we talk about the mental health crisis in young people, but actually, you know what, that's not really very well understood unless you actually are experiencing mental health problems yourself, or you know someone very close to you is. It's quite an abstract problem. It's a very invisible problem. Someone with mental ill health can be walking around looking like they're having a wonderful time, but you don't really know what they're going through. And so for this parent, you know, to be, you know, I'm a parent myself, and, you know, to have a child that never smiles and is so unhappy and just finding every day is a battle, that impacts on you too. So I think just having something that just brings that smile back, it's positive for that child, but also for the whole family and for you know, for the parents, it gives them hope. So I think, you know, something that sounds quite simple, like going for a surf, might seem like not a medical or a clinical intervention, but actually if it brings that smile back to a child's face, then that's so important, you know, for them and for their family.
Thank you for sharing that as well, Joe. And I'm sure you also probably have many similar types of letters or feedback like that. Elena, can you think of anything similar but like different to that as well? And another way it impacts that it has been good for parents?
Definitely. So
Cole's just sharing some pictures from the WAVE project, but yeah.
Yes. So I mean, that's a very big one, right? It is a repeating feedback that we get, that the parents have seen their, and this is Aliyah and me, that the parents have seen their kids smiling for the first time in ages, right? I think a very big one just recently, I mean, with the pandemic, there was a lot of struggles with young people just not leaving the house anymore, right? Not going to school, not meeting with friends, not doing any exercise, right? So for them to actually show up at the session and look forward to it was a big relief for the parents, but also just beautiful to see that they found back to themselves, right, after such a difficult time, and that we were allowed to be part of that process, right? On the sessions, at the end of the session, we actually always ask our young people what have they really enjoyed on that particular session. And funny enough, most of the times a lot of the times they mention that they had fun, right, having fun, but also the wipeouts get mentioned a lot, right, that they really enjoyed the wipeouts. And in our feedback forms, or just recently, a beautiful thing I heard was a young person say, "Thank you for taking the fear away from the sea and giving me fun in the waves," right? So I think that is a beautiful thing.
Thank you. I mean, it sounds really like a holistic thing as well, because it touches on so many things. Just even for someone to go out and have fun, never mind all the other benefits. And if you can put a smile on someone's face, that means it's in their heart as well, I think. So I think we're running out of time. I'm not sure if I don't think people are being a bit shy to put any questions on. Before we go, what is the goal now for the WAVE project? Is it to continue this and continue to get funding? And
we want to be able to be available to support as many young people as possible, and you know, that's what we're trying to do. And to be honest, we're grappling with how to do that well, and you know, provide a good service that's available. And in fact, we had a staff meeting last year where there's lots of differences of opinion about how many young people we should be supporting. Some people felt we should be supporting less young people, but giving them more time. Others felt we should try and widen it more and try and reach more young people. So we're kind of going through those sort of decisions at the moment as a charity, and we're just trying to do a good job really and make sure that the young people we support are safe, that they enjoy they get something really meaningful out of it. And you know, it is life changing. That's what we're trying to achieve. So as long as we're doing that, my view is always that, you know, if we help one person, you know, in a year, and it makes a really measurable, meaningful difference to their life, then that's worth doing, you know, because you've changed that person's life forever. So but we're trying to do what we can as well as possible.
Great. And
that's a bit of a vague answer.
And just Elena, can I ask you as well, if somebody's watching right now, I know that Aliyah addressed some young people who might be watching, but if someone's watching now and maybe they have a kid who they would think this would be, you know, good recommendation for, something positive, how can they get in touch with you guys, and what do they have to do?
Yeah, so the easiest way is to go through our website, right? It also directs you to the right location. So the easiest way is the website, right? It directs you directly to the location that you might be interested in. But also we're all over social media, right? That you can find the WAVE Project on Facebook, on Instagram. You can find the WAVE Project Brighton on Instagram as well. So these are easy ways. Of course, you can get in touch directly with me, and I would love to have a chat with anyone who's interested to join, whether it's young people, parents, referrers, volunteers.
Everyone. Okay, brilliant. Guys, thank you all so much. Aliyah and Joe and Elena, you've been brilliant, and I wish you continued success with this project. And yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you, Elena.
This evening.
Thanks for everyone for listening as well.
Bye. Thank you
so much.